This is the Success Happy Hour experience, and we're talking about relocating to Grand Cayman. This tour has gone global. It is Christmas time, so Merry Christmas, everybody. You can see the joy and some of the decor that has changed in the backdrop of this studio as we are leading up. Wow, Dave, my guest, 12 days to Christmas, and how the hell are you? This is David Van Dunhoeven, my former accountant, now living in Grand Cayman. We're going to talk about how to successfully transfer to an island like Grand Cayman, what benefits it has, what perks it has, especially in times of economic uncertainty. We in the West are facing inflation. We're facing a devaluing dollar. We're facing corrupt politicians who just love to spend for votes. It seems like everything's mismanaged. The Bank of Canada lost money for the first time, and I don't know how long this year, but at least they are doing the right steps to fix things. You have to hike interest rates to clean up inflation. Kudos to them for doing that. But our government got us into this mess in the first place. And to talk a bit about why and how and the challenges he faced getting to Grand Cayman, David, first of all, how are you, buddy? What's going on?
I'm good, Rob. Thanks. It's nice to chat with you. Listening to what you said, I mean, some of those things actually contributed to my rationale for leaving Canada and looking elsewhere. In particular for me, the biggest impetus, there was two, and one is money related. Marginal tax rates of 53% back in 2007. Government taking more of my money than I was, didn't make sense financially to stay.
It doesn't.
Look, I'm a Canadian at heart. I always will be. Although I physically left, my heart's never left. But you know what? I don't miss the snow. I'll be coming to Canada in 2 weeks from today. In 1 week from today, actually, for 10 days. We always do our visits, but I like to visit snow rather than live in it. So, it's a nice, as you can tell from the background, it's a nice change of scenery.
Oh yeah, the Westin 7 Mile Beach, Grand Cayman, ladies and gentlemen. I actually have a very little side job at the Ottawa Marriott Hotel. We got hotel discounts. I'm going to have to fly down there and visit with my girlfriend. But speaking of relocating, it's something I'm heavily interested in. On this show, Dave, we have had people talk about alternative forms of banking and how they use dividend participating whole life insurance as a bank for yourself to borrow from later in life by paying or overpaying on your premiums. We've talked about real estate in Costa Rica, which, you invest, I believe it's either $150,000 or $200,000 US or more into property. You automatically give a granted citizenship as long as you don't have a criminal record in your host country. We've talked about relocating to Dubai and now Grand Cayman. And there's a lot of things appealing. Look at the weather behind you, for instance. It's about 5 degrees today, but this is a great day in Ottawa, 5 degrees Celsius at this time of year. Normally it's about -5. We've had some snowfall. It's now getting into the darkest points of the year. It's not pleasant. To add to all the financial and job frustration that people are facing in this country and the lack of prosperity, there's a million reasons why. Talk to us a bit about why you did deeply get started and what hurdles did you face doing so?
Yeah, I mean, I think back in the day, it was probably in 2001, my wife and I came here actually on our honeymoon as part of a cruise, and it was one of the stops. And I absolutely, I had a friend who was living here at the time. He was a dentist that had relocated from Ottawa, and he talked to me, and actually I had a job interview on that trip, believe it or not. He introduced me to someone, had a job offer for the following September. I had come in November, and that wasn't the right opportunity for me, but it planted a seed. We thought about it some more, started looking and trying to see what might be available. There's a lot of accountants and lawyers here, not a big surprise. The message I got was, well, you really need to focus on getting your U.S. accounting designation. It's a little bit more well regarded here. I'm a management accountant by profession originally, and so anyway, I went and I did that, and lo and behold, 6 years later, we made the move. Once we found the right role and we had done our research, it's expensive to live here. Everybody. it's interesting. Most of the people, when they think of Grand Cayman, they think of movies like The Firm. And that's oftentimes the extent of their knowledge, which doesn't necessarily paint the island in a positive light, but it's a beautiful place. And it's really easy to fall in love with for a multitude of reasons.
Yeah, they got even a place called Hell there, a post office.
Yeah, like we do. Absolutely.
I love to joke about that because I've been there before. But yes, you're right. Beautiful place. So, just to note things, always seek your proper financial advice, your tax lawyers, accountants. Fortunately, today on this show, we actually have a tax accountant and a fully licensed one in Canada and the States and around the world. So, I mean, what you're giving is prudent advice, and this is great to have on the show. What were the biggest hurdles to moving?
Being honest, the semantics of getting organized. I mean, we owned our house, we owned our cars, we had investments, we had everything that, the normal person has in Canada. So, making the decision was one thing, but then actually planning to enable that decision was something entirely different. And, all of the logistics of, the stuff that we wanted to take with us. We made some mistakes along the way. We thought, well, we'll take our furniture with us, because you're gonna rent a place or buy a place, but you're gonna have to furnish it. Well, that was the biggest mistake because everything here pretty much comes furnished, and so you really don't need it.
That's a good piece of advice right there, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, you can get a place that isn't furnished, but they're very few and far between, and so, we ended up having to juggle our own stuff with owner stuff, and when we first rented, and that was a challenge. The other hurdles of coming here. I mean, it's not necessarily easy when you first come as an expat. You've got to get a work permit, and the only exception to that really is if you're working for government, and then government employees don't need a work permit, but they still have to go through a rigorous approval process. I was lucky because I came in as the senior CFO in government here, and so I didn't need the work permit. But trust me, there was still lots of hassles in terms of approval processes and everything else. That continues, every 2 years pretty much, where you have to renew your paperwork. Fees have to get paid. Now, typically your employer pays for those fees, but they're expensive. Certainly for work permits, they pay for. As you're here longer, they don't necessarily have to pay for permanent residency fees or your status application fees and that sort of thing. And those can be quite costly. So, and it's a long process. So it's not easy. But once you're here, honestly, those issues become small by comparison to the benefits.
I could see that for sure. Yeah. And I mean, you're an outdoor enthusiast and a fitness advocate, fitness participant. I know you run, swim, you work out. It's a perfect location for that lifestyle change. You have a first world infrastructure. On that note, my friend, cheers to the happy hour. I have a Sinha Stout. This is a Sinha Lion Stout by Ceylon Brewery out of Sri Lanka. This is one of the world's best stouts. It's been around, I believe, since the latter 19th century, 1881. You get chocolate notes in this. We are in stout season. This is the first style that really went global, along with porters with the British Empire back in the 17th and 18th century with the boom of the industrial age. Great history behind this, but this is like a Turkish delight in a glass. It's wonderful. It's opulent. It's creamy. It's rich. It's full-bodied. You got about, great effervescence, some good acidity to balance off some of those sweeter notes in the malting. The hops balance out as well. A little bit of bitterness in there. You got about 8.8% alcohol. This is almost a glass of wine here. And what do you have, my friend? What are you drinking? I saw that you have a lager of some type on the bar.
Yeah, I do. It's just a simple Beck's from the bar, so nothing extravagant.
Nothing wrong with that.
But
it's
cold and it's tasty.
Yes, and Beck's, of course, a rich German brewer, a global powerhouse. Hot weather invites you to drink things like lagers. They're crisp, they're effervescent. You have ripe citrus, slight bready brioche notes in it, some cereal notes. very refreshing. Something like this is much more suited to the fireplace up here in the cold weather of Ottawa, Canada. If you're in Western Europe or the northern part of the States right now, grab one of these. It is stout season. At any rate, getting back to this, yes, the lifestyle. So you own a business that helps firms relocate. Is that not correct? Are you involved in something to that capacity as a professional accountant?
Well, so our business is actually a financial services business, and so we offer trust services, corporate management services, and fund administration services, and so that's what we do locally here in Cayman. More broadly, the company has other services that it offers, and some of those is helping businesses relocate, in particular from Europe to the U.S. And variety of reasons as to why firms might want to do that. We don't get involved in that necessarily from my office here in Cayman, but we're focused more on really helping people manage their wealth. It's often taboo to talk about it, but whether you're uber wealthy, ultra high net worth, or whether you're an average citizen. You still are deserving of having that advice from a structuring standpoint and trying to minimize your tax obligation. People abroad, Cayman always gets painted as a tax haven. It's not. It has no income tax for sure, but it has a wealth of other taxes that take its place. Government still needs to survive and provide services for its citizens. And so the notion that there's no tax here is a bit of a misnomer, but there is no income tax. So from that perspective, it's a bit of an interesting place. But it's a place, we're one of the largest fund domiciles in the world. And why is that? It's because there's no income tax, corporate or personal. So it's tax neutral. And so it doesn't relieve anybody from their obligations of reporting their income back home and paying tax on it. But Cayman doesn't impose any tax itself. And so from that perspective, it's a convenient place for people to do business.
Absolutely. And it's got a first world infrastructure. It has the laws of the British Empire. There's some massive advantages to this. You basically, the laws in a lot of ways would be similar to what's found in Canada, because we're all founded under federations. We're not confederations. So as a prime minister, quite a similar parliamentary system, judicial system, all enacted by the British Empire that we benefit from today. So I have Zedra's homepage up here, and this is your website. So I see it right here that you've got some great things going on. We're going to go into the tab itself. So we're just going to hit up some services here. You see private wealth, family business management. You have global financial governance. You have investment consultancy. You have a whole host of things here. You talk about EU importation, British. I could obviously see European firms wanting to move there because the EU is overregulated now. It's almost like a quasi-dictatorship over the member states. That's the way I view it, because you have a lot of unelected officials running the EU's parliament now. And that causes a problem for businesses. The high tax rates, in a lot of the world, groups like the OECD that propagate high taxes amongst the Western world, yet their employees, I don't know if you knew this, Dave, get tax-free salaries. And they get all sorts of perks based on the French government holidays. It's quite a bit of hypocrisy going on there. And in today's uncertainty, obviously, I'm sure you would recommend Grand Cayman as one of the best places to hedge your wealth and your bets for the future.
For sure. There's everyone's situation obviously is different, and they need the benefit of, legal and tax advice based on, where they are. But it's a great place. The structures that are available are fantastic. There's all kinds of different risk levels and risk appetites that'll be available in the different products, so it's absolutely fantastic from a planning tool.
Yeah, and it's it's not going to change. I imagine there's a lot of good real estate investments to be held into Grand Cayman as well. It's pricey, but once you acquire it, I imagine that valuation is very secure and steady to go up because of the kind of global community it attracts.
Well, again, there's a lot of wealth here, and so we're not dissimilar, I think, from other jurisdictions in the sense that we're also dealing with inflation and all the same items that you sort of talked about, and property values have skyrocketed here. So, it costs a pretty penny to get in, but it seems like it's a fairly safe investment. I have yet in the 15 years I've been here see the property values go down. And it's always a debate, global recession perhaps coming in 2023, if it's not already here, and what will that do? And a lot of the real estate folks that I talk to here, they sort of suggest that, we're well insulated. We're a small island. There's lots of people coming and going. And so they don't foresee the same impact that you might see elsewhere.
No, and the fact that it's a rich banking community and finance community, there's a huge tourism hub. Tourism is back in a bang. It's a beautiful island to visit. The weather's almost perfect year round. There are a lot of things that are to keep it well buoyed. And I imagine the whole financial system is pretty well managed there too, like internally as far as the island goes with infrastructure. Something that we don't have right now in Canada. It seems like they just hit the printing press every time they're frustrated here lately. And as well as I, and more so than I would, being a true financial expert, what kind of devastation that can wreak to an economy over time. I mean, it's terrible. So, for the viewers out there, make sure to connect to Dave. You have his website. We're going to have your contact details in the show notes. Cheers to you, my friend, and a happy hour. Thank you for being on this show.
Cheers, Rob.
What a great location. Once again, that behind you is the picturesque 7 Mile Westin, or a hotel, or 7 Mile Beach Westin Hotel in Grand Cayman. David, you've been a tremendous guest. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, whatever you decide to do, have a terrific day. This is Rob and Dave from The Drunken Great.